Hello and welcome to JSB Talks Digital, the podcast for marketers, digital transformation champions, and those of you bringing your skills into the digital age. I'm Joanne Sweeney-Burke and this podcast is brought to you by Digital Training Institute. Be sure to subscribe to JSB Talks Digital on iTunes or Spotify. I promise you, the 20 minutes you invest each week with me for free will take your digital and social media knowledge to new levels. In this episode, number 90, I discuss the power of mobile journalism and not just for reporters, so marketers, listen up. Coming up in today's show, in social media news, social media use in 2018, new research from the US, Twitter bans bulk tweeting and duplicate accounts in bot crackdown, and Facebook adds lists feature to support status updates. I interview Glen Mulcahy, Mojo expert and founder of Titanium Media. In Shoutouts, 3 pieces of Mojo kit you need in your rucksack. Ask JSB, in JSB's column, why brand journalism matters, and find out what social media tool saved my working week.
Social media news.
A new Pew Research Center survey of US adults has found that the social media landscape in early 2018 is defined by a mix of long-standing trends and newly emerging narratives. I find US trends can sometimes mirror trends in other markets eventually, especially when it comes to social media. So what did they find? Well, Facebook and YouTube dominate this landscape as notable majorities of US adults use each of these sites. At the same time, younger Americans, especially those aged 18 to 24, stand out for embracing a variety of platforms and using them frequently. 78% of 18 to 24-year-olds use Snapchat, and a sizable majority of these, at 71%, use the platform multiple times per day. Similarly, 71% of Americans in this age group now use Instagram, and close to half, at 45%, are Twitter users. You can read the full report at the blog post associated with this podcast. Twitter has announced major restrictions on how users and apps can automate tweets in order to combat spam and political propaganda bots. Developers are now banned from using any system that simultaneously posts identical or substantially similar tweets from multiple accounts at once. They're also banned if they make actions like liking, retweeting, and following across multiple accounts at once. Twitter says it will remove these options from its own TweetDeck app, and third-party developers have until March 23rd to comply. Twitter says these actions are an important step in ensuring they stay ahead of malicious activity targeting the crucial conversations taking place on their platform, including elections in the United States and across the world. It alluded to the plan last month when it revealed that over 50,000 accounts were linked to Russian propaganda efforts. The demand for more engaging personal content may have led Facebook to launch their new list option on status updates. The feature allows Facebook users to create a list like a to-do list, a wish list, or where I want to travel list, or top list. Users can create their own lists with coloured backgrounds and they can decorate them with emojis. The lists are also designed with the idea that friends could copy each other's lists to share their own opinions about a subject at hand.
Interview.
In this episode, I interview Glen Mulcahy, mobile journalism expert and founder of Titanium Media. A former broadcast journalist, Glen worked in Ireland's national broadcaster RTE for 15 years. Now a Mojo evangelist, he shares his insights and his expertise with me.
JSB Talks Digital.
I'm joined at the Radio Days conference, day 2, by Glen Mulcahy, who is the founder of Titanium Media. Now, Glen was just on the panel with me about digital insights, and as a former staff member at RT for many, many years, you spoke about the equipment that they use, but your speciality now is Mojo, mobile journalism, what we can create with our mobile phone. And we're not just talking about people like me, podcasters, vloggers, but even big brands and media. How important is Mojo right now?
Mojo's incredibly important. The paradox is that everyone already effectively has it, but very few people have realised the potential of it yet, which is kind of drives me a little bit batty now, to be honest with you. But it's been around 10 years. It's evolved an awful lot over that period, and it's only, I think, in the last 2 or 3 that we've started to see very, very big international brands start to leverage the power of it. And where it really, really has an opportunity that most people haven't yet really capitalised upon is niche storytelling. This is not a case of trying to cannibalise the big brand advertising market model. This is about being able to actually kind of appeal to small communities of people who are not represented by the mainstream stuff, and actually be able to kind of form a relationship with them and, bring them in effectively as part of your community.
And we know that people are worried about radio versus digital versus print media and TV, but in actual fact, perhaps the secret is, when you talk about it, is building your own niche community and creating content for them. As a community of marketers who are watching and listening to this, should they be getting front of screen and getting their mobile phone, their tripod and their mic and start to create content in-house?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, here's the thing. There's hardly any financial investment in it, okay? So that, for me, from the first barrier, is kind of a no-brainer. Then all it takes is a little bit of effort. That should be something you can manage, okay? So there's huge room to innovate and to experiment. And basically, if you experiment and stuff doesn't work, abandon it and move on and try something else. But keep experimenting, keep innovating, because actually, if you remain static in the market, which has gone through such massive disruption, you basically are absolutely risk complete and utter, irrelevance. Not everyone wants to go front of camera. We've heard from a 14-year-old blogger, amazing, to whatever, 20 million views in one of her videos. Is incredible, right? So, what was the impotence for her? She identified who the market was. She identified what it was she wanted to achieve. She identified a solution, and she just went ahead and did it. There's a case study right there, which would be an inspiration to people who are sitting on the fence. Oh, I don't know if I should try it or whatever. Just bloody do it.
And I think that perhaps a lot of people listen too much to maybe people like me, commentators, who are telling them to do A, B and C. But in reality, they will know best because they should know their audience best.
That is it in a nutshell. One size doesn't fit all. That's why the experimentation stage is so important. And also you have to, from the get-go, agree to sign up to the idea that you're going to fail, but you're also going to achieve things, okay? And that's where the real learning and the real value is, No one audience is going to be on any particular one social media platform. So, publishing across the spectrum, waiting to see where the engagement comes from and then putting more energy into that going forward is a sensible approach. But realise that never assume that that's the way it'll always be, that new platforms start to, eat others. Right now there's a huge debate going on in the community I work with where they're saying, oh, we really need to be on Snapchat to talk to the millennials. And yet loads of the people that I deal with who are brand ambassadors are going, well, actually, we're all moving towards Instagram more and more. So, maybe Instagram stories is where you need to be. So, it's never static. It's constantly evolving. And the only way you'll stay on top of it is to experiment and stay tapped into that community.
So we're at a radio conference and we should talk about the channels that radio are tapping into, on air versus online. A lot of fear there, isn't there? They don't want to lose their listenership, their JNLR figures if they jump online. They're afraid that will happen. What's your own advice?
Yeah, so again, look, this is a very pragmatic and sensible approach, okay? You have a core user base, an audience that you serve through your linear broadcasting channel. But at the same time, you can be bloody sure that there's an audience that linear model is not serving. So I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater here. I'm saying do what you do well and continue to do that by all means, but make a bit of room for the experimentation on the side and be prepared to go through a period of iteration. Experiment, assess it, Discard the stuff that obviously didn't work, do more of the stuff that does work. I mean, I'll give you just one tiny case study. WLR down in Waterford, not to go back to the old case study, but they actually started into this Mojo space maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And they were initially kind of going, well, we just use it for news, or should we look to do other content with it? And basically what they did is they have an events team that go out to, big launches and stuff. Normally that would be, we hire the roadcaster for the day and we do a broadcast from the load. All the girls that were on that team would go out, and when they're at those events, they're doing loads of short-form social media content, pushing it out with the brand that has them there for the day, amplifying it over their own brand, and basically it's a complete no-brainer. And yet you get engagement on a platform that they otherwise would not really be on. So, it's little things like that are just quick wins and really, really easy to achieve.
And guys, you know what? I started in journalism and radio. Glenn, you've come from the national broadcaster. We all have to evolve and iterate. And I think that standing still is when people will lose.
Yeah, standing still is definitely going to be to your detriment.
Glen Mulcahy from Titanium Media, thank you so much for joining me on JSB Talks Digital.
Thanks a lot.
Shoutouts.
In this part of the show, I give shout-outs to brands, organisations or individuals whose work online is remarkable and worth talking about. In this episode, I'm sharing 3 brilliant resources for Mojo enthusiasts.
1.
Glen Mulcahy has written extensively about Mojo 2.0. You really have to read his blog post where he shares the essential Mojo kit bag that we as Mojo journalists need to carry around with us.
2.
The Huffington Post have developed a really incredible Mojo handbook. The authors take a neo-journalistic approach to multimedia news, building on the need to base Mojo skills around traditional skills. Mojos require what Stephen Quinn calls a multimedia mindset, or a way of thinking which combines video, audio, text, graphics, and stills. And Ivo Burum points out that this multi-planner storytelling approach, where stories can take a little more time to produce, also relies on many traditional journalism skills, include editing on a mobile phone. Quinn and Burum pack a wealth of background information, advice, and references on how to plan and what it takes to collect, sort out, produce, and disseminate content by using portable devices that older journalists could only dream of.
3.
If you're just beginning to get started with streaming live, here are some excellent Mojo tips. Make sure to keep your phone on airplane mode. Check your video settings. Always use the highest video resolution for the best quality video. BBC's March Settle says, highest quality is great, but not if the file becomes too large or slow to send. Always clean your lens, as phones are always put in our pockets or, ladies, in our handbags. Hold your phone horizontally. Use the largest memory card your phone can handle. Video requires a lot of storage. Zoom with your feet for good quality video. Use a Zoom H1 for good quality audio. Make sure to hold your phone steady. Try not to move the camera so much, it will make your viewers dizzy. So, to fix that, use a tripod. Use your light, but never shoot into the light except for effects. Move as little as possible, no panning, and know where the microphone on your phone is. Keep it clear and make sure your hands aren't blocking it. To access all of these excellent Mojo tips, make sure you check out the blog post associated with this podcast over at digitaltraining.ie.
Ask JSB.
In this week's Ask JSB, my question comes from Helena, who has just taken up a role as social media manager in a radio station. She wants JSB's perspective on social for radio. Hey Helena, and congratulations on the new job. Very best wishes for great success. I love your question. You know, we've spoken at length at the Radio Days conference about social media for radio, but let me remind you of my top tips. Radio stations are natural storytellers. You guys already have an audience, so make sure that you leverage it. My first tip, therefore, is extend the conversation that you're having on air to online. Secondly, take your social media fans behind the scenes of your radio station. Don't take what you do for granted. People will love to see the magic that happens within a radio station. And thirdly, I recommend that you make your presenters even more famous. They're famous on air. Why not make them famous online? Don't forget, if you have a burning social media or digital marketing question, simply click on digitaltraininginstitute.ie/askjsb and leave me a voicemail. You can also send me your questions to any of our social networks.
JSB's column.
In today's JSB's column, I share my insights into brand journalism and why marketers need to adopt the role of roving reporter. So, who owns news these days? Well, in my view, I believe marketers and reporters need to embrace mobile and brand journalism. What is brand journalism? Well, according to brandjournalists.com, it's writers who practice journalism-style storytelling on behalf of a company, having to accomplish the same goal, earning and keeping an audience's attention. They have to collect and edit stories about a company and present them to the company's audience through a variety of media. Now, most of you know by now that I used to work as a journalist. I used to have the power to put your story on air or put your pitch in the bin. Right now in the digital age, we live in remarkable times. We are fortunate enough to have our own radio show. For example, this podcast. I mean, who's going to give JSB a full radio show to talk about social media and digital marketing? I don't have to wait to pitch to a radio station. I was able to set up my own show in the form of a podcast over a year and a half ago. There are so many reasons why we need to think of brand journalism as a tactic for our own companies. In the digital age, content fuels the social web. We have all become media companies. We're all producing content online. That content should tell the story of our brand. Content has also become a commodity. A commodity is something that we sell. Radio stations are in the business of selling their on-air content to advertisers so that they can speak to their ideal audiences. Turn that around and have a think about what the content does for our businesses. It's allowing us reach our ideal audiences. Your brand is your news. You've got to tell the story of what's happening within your business or within your organization. This builds up trust and credibility. Also, if you're not publishing, you're actually not gaining visibility on the social web. Remember the days of traditional PR when it was all about gaining third-party affirmation? We can now achieve this with brand journalism. And finally, storytelling is the most powerful way to connect with your audiences. If you're a radio station or an organization and you're in need of a brand journalism strategy, then get in touch. Simply email Joanne at digitaltraining.ie.
Social media tool of the week.
The tool that saved my working week this week is my trusted Zoom H1. I take this little device around with me everywhere, and I mean everywhere. It's my audio recorder, which allows me to convert a conversation into a potential podcast interview anywhere I go. Yes, I must admit, when I'm talking to new people, or not so new people, I'm actually considering their potential for an interview at the same time. The audio I record in the Zoom H1 is also used for my video blogs. The audio is capturing clean and reliable and so ideal for use on video as well as on the podcast. Here are some of its features. It's got a high-speed USB 2.0 port. It's got a built-in reference speaker. It includes a 2 gig micro SD memory card and one AA battery. The one AA size battery allows 10 hours of operation, and it accommodates up to 32 gig of memory on the microcard. The Zoom H1 is available on Amazon and in all good electronic retail outlets, and it will set you back about €90, but trust me, it's worth every penny. Thank you so much for tuning into episode number 90 of JSB Talks Digital. As always, I have everything discussed on today's show on my award-winning blog at digitaltraining.ie. Be sure to subscribe to JSB Talks Digital. You'll find us on iTunes, Spotify, Libsyn, Stitcher or SoundCloud. Don't forget to send me your questions and your ideas for new topics for the show. Send me a tweet to Tweets by JSB, post a comment on our Facebook page, Digital Training Institute. You can also snap me to JSB Snaps, or why not get in touch via Instagram, I'm JSB Grams. I'm Joanne Sweeney Burke. This is JSB Talks Digital. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.
JSB Talks Digital.